he's coming our way. Hopefully we can scare him away.
All right. Good morning, world. Good morning, good morning, good morning, world. Back in the cave. Horses are right outside eating their food. An adventure dog is finally licking a leftover roast bone out in the shop behind me. Had to take her for an operation yesterday. Poor thing. She's not doing too well. She wouldn't eat last night, wouldn't eat this morning, and then we cooked a elk shoulder roast with a full shoulder blade in. I always leave it like that. Oh my God, it's so good. And I saved the shoulder blade for her, and any dog would go crazy to see it. She wouldn't even look at it. So I had to pretend to be chewing on it myself, and then she's looking at me wagging her tail, and then I ripped a piece off and gave it to her, and she's like, started eating it, and then I gave her the shoulder. Now she's finally licking it and having a little go at it. Anyway, she'll be sore for a bit. She's all right. What else? Quick mention. So right now, every minute counts for me. Every minute counts. I'm doing something with every second of the day to get stuff done that I can get done ahead of time before September 1st for my hunting trip. Because I have to go back out to the ocean here pretty quick. Had to get I bent the axle on my trailer from putting too much hay on it. And I discovered that bend by my tires peeling off as I drove the length of the province last year. Kind of sucked. So I had to order a new axle. Grabbed that yesterday while the dog was getting her operation in the next town over, Nanaimo. And I also dropped off my 2 huge sleeping bags that I use in camp when I could truck camp or quad camp to get them both washed at a laundromat. Got the bill, $84. Oh boy. Then I went to Cabela's as well to eat up some time as I need another tent. And because, believe it or not, Sarah thinks she wants to shoot her first elk. So I got to upgrade my comfort zone in camp because I can basically live like a dog in the woods. I don't give a shit, but not Sarah. So anyways, I went to buy a bigger tent. Finally picked up the dog, got everything home. All excited to set up the new tent in the backyard last evening. We went to go set it up. It was incomplete. And then she looked up on the tag. It was originally from Calgary Cabela's. And she could tell by some of the packaging that somebody had had it open before. So what happened was somebody must have bought the same tent, ruined some of the poles. So they bought another one, took the poles or whatever they ruined out of the package, put the package together and returned it. Somehow it made it over here to Vancouver Island, and who bought it? Me. Like I have time to go all the way to Nanaimo again to fix that screw up. Oh, that sucked. That was a big bummer for me. So I pass that on. If you ever buy something in a large package like a tent or whatever from anywhere, open it right there at the store and make sure everything's in there. All right? I couldn't even imagine right now if I had just left to drive 2 days to go in the middle of nowhere and then I opened up my brand new tent. Ooh, that would have been real bad. Real bad. Anyways, there you go. That's all I got for new news, I think, right now. That may be helpful to somebody. My main message is to make sure next time I buy anything from a store like that may have various components, I'm opening it right there. That was a $480 tent. Now, what do we got? We got a lot of people waiting to be heard. And this is the right place to be heard, because you get heard word for word. This is titled Short and Sweet. Hi, Steve, long-time listener. Love your style and take on things in general, rants included. Thanks for the kind words, man. In 1984, I was 19 and got my deer tag in the area above Grass Valley, California, known as the Little Town of Washington. My hunting buddy had a prior commitment, so I went along with my 870 and slugs, hoping to bag a muley/blacktail around the recent clear cut up the ridge. I parked in that logging area and walked about a quarter mile into standing timber. I'd never been to this exact area, but knew about the big muley cross up there from my friend. I came across an old homestead before long. Abandoned house, small barn, and apple trees on a leveled off area, about the size of a football field. And something felt weird to me as I looked around for sign around the apple trees, thinking, why would someone abandon this sweet homestead? I knew the deer would know about the apples, as I shook the tree to knock some loose and figured out where I was going to lay in wait. I got close to the edge on the north side and could hear a creek down the steep hill. Then I heard voices coming from that direction. I got an intense feeling like something wasn't right and backed away to an apple tree to listen, thinking it was hunters coming up. I strained to hear what they were saying. It sounded like Chinese or something. There was no Sierra sounds or anything for reference back then, but for some reason I knew it was a mother and a son Bigfoot. They sounded like they were arguing, but trying to keep quiet, and knew I was up there. Then I started getting scared, and the thoughts of, you need to leave, and you shouldn't be here, came into my head. These were not the thoughts of a 19-year-old me. Shit, I wanted a bag of buck. But these thoughts seemed to impose their will on me, and I lost the will to hunt there that day. I remember looking at the apple tree as I walked back the way I came and being scared to even pick an apple. Then something said, it's okay to take one, and I did. I walked away back to the truck. Somehow I just knew what it was. And I guess mind speak may have saved me from the club and no return that day, even though I never saw them. The emotions and fear was put into me that day and still comes back when I recount my experience, which I've only told a few select friends in the 40 years since. Thank you for this platform, and God bless Todd. P.S. I got my buck the next weekend just a few miles away. Okay, right on. What a crazy skill that is, isn't it? What a crazy skill that is to intentionally, smoothly, no problem at all, speak to someone through telepathy just like that. I would love to be able to do that. Maybe I will one day. I hope so. I hope I learn everything before this is over, this run. Appreciate that email, man. And you know now you're not the only one. Obviously, right? There are so many people that have the exact same experience you've had. It is incredible. Now, mark this one as red. Sabe in Mississippi and a craft. Hello from the deep south. I've had some things happen in a spot I particularly picked out on a map after listening to suggestions from a guy from Utah. Forest, water, and terrain features and such. Went there with a friend and jokingly acknowledged the tree structures and bends. Found a place that I nicknamed the Oasis. A small creek with a few fingers and palmettos in a valley, say. So fast forward a few years and I take my new girlfriend to this place. It's not a campground but a national forest. The paved road to turn off the highway had a closed road sign across it, and we went around. She's like, where are we going? Missing quotes there. The access to the little spot I found is not really a road, or as noticeable as the year or three before, but it's there with small trees grown on it. It has a wire across it, as still as the gate. So anyway, it's a secluded area. We set up on the downslope to a flat spot, truck and all, go hiking, and find an amazing laced tree, like one tree pried into 7 trees about 4 feet off the ground. We went to the Oasis and it was amazing there. It felt like a good place to be/live. I actually found a geomarker from the government there. So later on I got the fire going. I'm sitting there, it's probably 9 or 10, and the girl is in the tent doing her thing. I'm facing down a little cut towards the Oasis, which is about a quarter mile away in the valley. And all of a sudden, a bird call like a crow is behind me and sounds like it's high up. I turn, and there's no bird that I can see. Then one in front of me, and to the left, same bird call sound. Then I hear 2 steps and 2 knocks in that location. At this point, I'm concentrating, and the girl says, "Are you throwing rocks at the tent?" I said, "No." I was laughing because I knew what was happening, but she didn't have a clue and didn't tell her, and I didn't tell her. The tent was in the clearing, nothing above it to fall. This might sound weird to some people, but I was like, hell yeah. The bird calls were strange. Later that night, I woke to a distant yell. Not too deep or big, but a loud man yell. This was Mississippi. My gut was, it was a couple of juveniles. The next thing that happened to me in Mississippi was crazy. I was working/donating mechanic time for a 2-day bicycle tour. I was at the campgrounds. That is the turnaround for the participants. Tons of people filled the park, and after all bikes were attended to, a band was playing right next to my tent and truck on a fairly large stage. It was too loud, and they weren't that good of a cover band. So it's getting late, like 9-something, and the dog and I take a bike ride down to the paved road to the spot to chill. There's a lake with 2 access roads, 2 turnarounds. I stop at a picnic bench in between the 2 roads. I lay down on the bench with my legs bent and feet on top. My dog is 15 feet away in the grass. I say to myself, I'm just going to look at one spot and focus on it. The music stopped in the distance, and I was like, finally. Then a ship/craft, just above the trees, not above me, but over the little road ahead of me, passes across the opening in the trees from left to right. It's black, it has structure, right angles, it's a rectangle. All I see is the bottom. It's huge, silent, with not illuminated lenses on each end of it. What? All I see is the bottom. It's huge, silent, with not illuminated lenses on each end of it that were big, like it could make it day at night. It's maybe 60 feet by 120 feet in size, maybe bigger. I didn't move. No sounds. It was going like 50 miles per hour. I watched it, and I could tell it was tall due to the stars it blocked as it went. Excuse me. Silent propulsion on what seemed to be earthly made. I got to New Mexico and Colorado. I go to New Mexico and Colorado yearly, and have had a few weird happenings as well. We camped at this amazing place in New Mexico with elk all around and bike trails called Heaven on Earth, high elevation. We're sitting around the fire and notice a campfire start in the distance in the woods. Then it faded out after a few minutes. We said. The next morning I walked where I think it was, and there's no fire, no sight, just a circle of trees leaning and bent and such. I go back to camp and tell the girl to go where she thought the firelight was. She walked to within 6 feet of the same spot. A circle of tree structures. Anyway, thanks. I wanted this out there. What the F is that craft for? Abduction? Mississippi is a place I think the deep idiots build their underground bases. That dirt and clay is amazing there. Wow. That'd be something else seeing something like that. And one thing you can guarantee is that you're not the only one who's seen something like that in the sky. I haven't seen something like that myself, not yet. But I did listen to a pretty credible interview on the Sean Ryan podcast of a man who was threatened by Western Special Forces types who were loading civilians into a similar, not similar described craft, but a hovering craft that wasn't making any noise 4 feet off the ground. Crazy ass shit going on, man. Appreciate you coming forward with that. And shared. Next, Smoky Mountain Bigfoot with Feathers update. Well, you said to keep my head on a swivel. I haven't seen him again, thankfully. I asked the locals about Bigfoot, and I told them I had seen one. They think I'm crazy now. So, anonymous, please. I gotcha. Hearing you talk about mind speak, I made the mistake of saying to myself, there's a lot of lettuce in the garden if you're hungry. You can have it. The next day, it was gone, along with the cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and broccoli. Oops. Recently, I've seen these footprints on the deck. Do they look like bear to you or a small Bigfoot? I have a security camera on the deck and it didn't pick anything up. Stay well, praying for you. Thanks, Liz. Liz, appreciate that email. Let me have a look. 8 inches long. Man, it's so vague. It's hard. Everything's always hard just to photograph, but... All right, the first photo I can't decipher. The second photo, the tape measure. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Now, even if that was a back foot, which typically a bear will step on the back foot, a bear will step into the front print with its, say, the front left print of a bear. The rear left foot will overlap that typically when they're walking casually. So even at that, if I look at the front half of that mud print, it appears to be just the ball and the 4 toes, and the 4 toes are way too long for it to be a bear. If that pad and those toes were accompanied as a bear print, which I don't believe it is. So there you go. Nope, I don't think it's a bear. And that's all I can say. It sounds like you got something going on, especially in the garden. So if you had all those vegetables gone, was there footprints in the garden? There should have been. You would think there would be. But not always, right? There you go. Share it. Appreciate you sending that in. All right, what's this? I'm going to mark this as red. Connecting the dots and patterns. Hi, Steve and Hat family. First of all, Steve, many thanks to you for all the dedication you have in sharing all these important truths, as well as all the members of the club and the many others who send along support and comments. It's one of the few places I feel actual comfort and acceptance, as someone who isn't afraid to investigate subjects outside of the mainstream narrative, or even ask questions without fear of ridicule or dismissal. For that, I'm truly grateful. Appreciate the kind words. That's good. Although I've never actually seen a sob, I had an experience many years ago that made me feel I had to come close to something I now think may have been more terrifying than it was when in the surface. It fits in with all the patterns reported by members here on this channel. I was 15 at the time, and on a beautiful July afternoon, located in the small town of Lakefield, Ontario, just north of Peterborough, visiting friends at their summer cottage. Having had experience with grooming and exercising horses from my part-time job at Greenwood Racetrack in Toronto, I was given the task of taking one of the boarded racehorses from a local farm out for a ride alone through the fields and trails that surrounded the barns. It was a perfect sunny afternoon, and I was enjoying this amazing standard-bred racehorse and putting her through some much-needed exercise, when suddenly, while going down a steep but gradual grade in the trail, I noticed that everything had become really quiet, just as we were approaching an opening into the woods. I was looking forward to the nice shaded cover from the open fields, and now I started to have an odd feeling that something was wrong, and this weird silence all around was only adding to my growing sense of dread. Before we had a chance to stop and assess these eerily quiet surroundings, the horse came to a sudden dead stop. It then reared up on its hind legs and, turning violently, ripped the reins out of my hands. It was a split bridle, and both fell down beneath her head. She then began to run at such an incredible speed that all I could do was hang on to the horn of the saddle and some of her mane unable to reach the reins now, somewhere out of my sight and dangling from her mouth. That sucks. Thinking for sure they would trip the horse and cause her to fall and of course throw me off and kill me, she continued to race at full speed, with me hanging on for dear life and trying my best to gain some control. Been there. Sucks. At one point, the horse ran so close to a large maple tree on the trail that my knee hit the trunk with such force that I could see nothing but bright white light. Oh, that would have hurt. Lucky your kneecap's still attached. Most likely from the excruciating pain of the impact. I was amazed this hadn't thrown me off the horse, but I managed to hang on until the ride finally ended back at the barn where she began. Whew, lucky. Lucky. I slipped down off the saddle onto my one good leg, still reeling from pain and terror I'd just experienced, and noticed the horse's mouth was full of green foam. She was obviously exhausted from that incredible run. Thankfully, I had the good sense to know she was close to a heart attack, and to my shock, could see there was no one around to help either of us. So very slowly, with the intense pain making my leg feel like it was on fire, I had to hobble around the paddock step by excruciating step to get this poor horse calmed down and relaxed enough to go back into her stall. To this day, I have trouble with that knee. But we both survived. My point here, Steve, is what could have caused that poor horse to do such an unnatural thing? What could have terrified it to the point that she was racing for her life? Over the years, I've often considered that she saw something I didn't. And was that something the reason behind the sudden hush that came over the woods and fields, and the growing sense of fear I was feeling, just before she suddenly bolted? In my life, and I'm now 65 years old, I've had quite a few strange, otherworldly experiences. Even saw a ghost once, but I've yet to see a sabe. And that doesn't mean that I don't know they exist. I've never seen a real live grizzly bear either, but I fully trust in many reports I've heard that they are real. The second report in my letter has to do with something I recently heard and saw online, and have read about in a few great books over the years. I've seen a few of your episodes where people that have seen sabe have reported hearing strange clicking sounds that some sabe make with their tongues. This is what prompted me to write to you today. Since we're all trying to gather our own and also share puzzle pieces with everyone, I felt this was possibly an important piece of the great picture we are all trying to put back together. It could very well be a valuable tool we once had and has now been lost to us, along with other gifts we humans were originally born with. Lost due to the misinformation we are indoctrinated with via the education system, the toxins in our food and water, or even one or more of the now 30-something vaccines we are given as newborn humans, before we are released into our mother's care. As some of your letters from subscribers tell us, sabe has been known to tell certain people that we humans have some of the same abilities they have, but we've lost them for various reasons. What I've recently stumbled across may indeed be an important proof to this. I'll try to explain. We have all come to understand the sabe, some of them at least, has the ability to dematerialize or cloak themselves at will. Some of us also began to understand that the world we live in works by a system of vibration, sound, and frequency. I've recently seen and read accounts by very credible people that have discovered how to switch between mental states of mind by changing their frequencies. It is well known that humans change between these frequencies at various times of the day and night while we're sleeping. Our bodies vibrate in the theta range, and while awake we're in the alpha or beta frequency range. These ranges of frequency have a great deal to do with our waking states of mind, even how well or not so well we function during any given time of the day. I've heard you mention that you yourself were interested in the subject of grounding, or walking barefoot on the earth to connect with the earth's natural frequency, better known as the Schumann resonance, 7.68 Hertz. This technique is well known for helping people heal themselves both physically and mentally, and has other capabilities we are just starting to appreciate. I know we as a whole have so much more to relearn about these matters. I also know that a lot of this information has been deliberately hidden or lost to us. So that only makes me wonder why. What is it, or was so valuable to us as a species that would cause this info to be hidden, or at a time ridiculed or even classified as pseudoscience? Obviously, because there is some real power and potential to use as a species. Obviously, because there is some real power and potential to us as a species if we were to become fully aware of how this all works, right? I recently saw an episode online about a man named Bert Goldman who could switch his state of mind into these various frequencies simply by clicking his tongue. And for him, it created and helped him develop the most amazing abilities he never realized he even had. And he has also proven these techniques work and can work for anyone with a bit of practice. I was intrigued by this man's story because years before I had read the famous book Autobiography of a Yogi by the famous Paramahansa Yogananda. And he spoke of these same techniques, clicking his tongue when he was meditating, and how it brought him into various states of being. And as we have all recently heard quoted by the once discredited genius Nikola Tesla, if you want to know the secrets to how this world works, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I agree. So, there are a few very interesting dots we could all learn from simply connecting them together. And as you have been known to say, when you see a pattern, you should pay attention. And I absolutely agree. Something all of us should be looking into, in my humble opinion. And for the sake of brevity, as I know your time is so valuable, I will end on this note. Steve, you getting what I'm putting down here? LOL? I'm picking it up. Clearly seeing the ground, I'm picking it up. Thanks again for all you do, and I hope this has been helpful to someone. Donna Tobin, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Don, I appreciate your time and I appreciate that knowledge dump here for somebody to utilize. Take from what you will or leave it, everyone. Right? There you go. There's a bunch of links for your brain to look into if it interests you or not, right? Horses are chomping away out there. The mind speak thing, I don't know what's going on. Why harnessing humans so badly? I don't know. I mean, it's obvious. 110% obvious. We are to be the honeybees. That's all there is to it. Why? I don't know yet fully myself. I just don't understand how... I don't understand how, let's just say from the evil side, I don't understand how a lifetime of accumulating wealth and power can actually be that rewarding in the end. I mean, come on. By the time these people get to their deathbed, they've got to be questioning their sanity, you would think. Right? Doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess it would make sense if what? If I'm making up an answer. Okay, so if I just try to harness control and power over as many people as I can in my lifetime, that will launch me into living forever. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, what's the answer? I don't get it, because I have spent a lot of time with a lot of people who have harnessed a lot of frickin' power and wealth. And I'm not sure if any of them were happy. So I don't get it. Is it just a character flaws or something big, darker, and sinister going on? What do you think? Did I just make sense? Who knows? I don't think I always make sense. What do we got here? Next one, very short one. Mark this as read. Titled Mind Speak. Hey Steve, your quote today, July 31st, 2024. Quote, "We have not received a true account of Mind Speak," end quote. I sent a report, question mark, where I was given a name. Yes, take from it what you want. I will let you dig up the email and dump it as another. Nothing to take from it account. This has turned me away from the table. At 65 years of age, I need not offer my opinions at a table conversation if I do not or cannot add to the conversation in truth. My best to you all. What? What? I'm not even, does this make sense? Why did I read this? I'll try one more time. I don't know why I'm going to try one more time, but I'll try one more time. Remember, nothing scripted here, right? We're all here at the same breakfast table together having coffee. Hey, Steve, your quote today, July 31st, 2024. Quote, we have not received a true account of Mindspeak, end quote. I said that? We have not received a true account. I don't think I've ever spoken those words in my life when it comes to anything. I sent a report where I was given a name. Yes, take from it what you want. I will let you dig up the email and dump it as another. Nothing to take from it account. This has turned me away from the table. Okay, listen. I don't know what's going on with you and I can't help you. If anything, you didn't tune into what I was saying, or maybe it's somebody else. I haven't a clue. And if it turned you away from the table, well, I'm the wrong guy to snivel to, all right? I'm the wrong guy to approach with any kind of sniveling. This is the wrong place. If that is how simple... All right, I'll stop right there. Yeah, moving along. Thanks for your email. I haven't a clue what I've done. Here's another one. Shit, did I just mark one as... Okay, I read that. So you got all screwed up there. Who else? What do we got? Here's a short one. Hopefully not from the Offended Culture group. Titled Dreams. I have been introduced to people by a medicine woman who could travel and communicate in the dream realm as fluently as we do awake without the obstacles we have to deal with physically, i.e., time and space, etc., and can manifest in the dreams of others as well. So, knowing it can be done is the answer that it has been weaponized. Be safe and strong. You're dearly loved. Thank you for those kind words. That's interesting and alarming. And I'm guessing that's a reply to my mention about having a dream there a little bit ago. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I think if somebody with evil, dark intent was to intentionally enter my dream world, they would probably have something to say to me, I would think. I don't recall these two. I can still see the faces of those two men clear as a bell. Strange faces to me, but how would my mind put together the faces of human beings and the clothing? Clearly. I don't watch TV. I don't know. But I did have that feeling of dread and alarm and being alert and the fight, not fight or flight mode, but definitely fight. They were definitely intimidating. Not to the point of making me want to run, but I just remember having that odd feeling of I got to protect myself now. I got to get something and dummy these guys, whatever, right? Very odd. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, the dream world. I haven't had any time to dive into it. And I'm not looking to get a bunch of huge emails on the dream world topic here, all right? I'm very interested in getting people who have had a traumatizing experience in the mountains or woods anywhere in the world. They saw someone that they have been taught is impossible to exist and has affected their lives negatively. I want to hear from every single human being that has had that experience. And more, but that was the main one, right? To get their stories heard word for word and not changed by some psychopath pretending to be someone who cares about this topic. I'll bite my lip. All right, what's this one? Ooh, mark this as red. Me, my dog, and our Bigfoot neighbors. Hi, Steve. My name is Frank, and I'm just a guy. Aren't we all? I'm a co-owner of a little 165-acre ranch, northeastern New Mexico. Before I bought this place, I had what I'm calling an unseen encounter. I am a family friend of the previous owners of this property and was offered free reign to come and go and use the property to have fun and get away. Their oldest son, me and my twin brother, all have best friends. All have been best friends since we were 15. We three all served in the Marines. All three of us were infantry Marines. Me and my twin are Iraq vets. So one day I was visiting. The owner, my best friend's dad, told me and his son he didn't have much longer on this earth, and he will sell the property to us. Leonard was dying of cancer from Agent Orange from Vietnam. He was a good influence in my life and tough as nails. That old man was dying with 5 tumors and would go outside and cut wood in 100-degree Fahrenheit heat. One tough man. I hope I am half as tough as him when I am his age. I asked the Leonard if I could start bringing up things like my dirt bike and my four-wheeler and some other things. With a smile, he said, "Bring it all." And that I had nice stuff he wanted to play with, such as my tools and my four-wheeler, haha. So I did. I brought the dog. His name is Dave. Dave the dog. Dave's a pit bull who's tough and headstrong. He's a shithead. But he's my shithead and I love him like my child. The dog loves people but not afraid of anything. At 5 months old, a former roommate had let him out and was not watching him, and he was hit by a car. Oh, that sucks. He had a rod put in his leg and a plate. Within 5 days of having a snapped femur leg bone, he was running like a cheetah, as if he was never hit. So I have just rolled up to the property with my dog at about 3 p.m. A storm was rolling in from the north, and I wanted to get the things off of my trailer. As soon as I get there, I let Dave out. He knows this place and loves it. As soon as I open the door to the truck, he clears about 12 feet and starts chasing rabbits. He does this for about 30 minutes usually, but not today. This dog doesn't like loud things such as dirt bikes, and all of a sudden he is up my ass trying to get on my four-wheeler as I'm backing it off the trailer. And I could smell a faint smell of wet dog / skunk. Steve, I've never seen this dog scared. Not ever. He was glued to me and he couldn't wait to get inside. As soon as I turned the deadbolt, he about knocked me over and bust the door open, and then he looked like he now thought he was safe. And it wasn't the storm. He doesn't care about thunder or lightning. He would not go out. I knew he had to go. And I had to pull him out with his leash on. I've never had to do this before. He would go to the door and sniff the crack of the door, and he wouldn't let me out of his sight, like a scared little kid. I'd never seen the Sabe the whole time. This time I was there for a total of 4 days. We left on a Monday, and that morning, Dave sniffed the door crack and was dancing around and all happy. I let him out. He shot out of the door and held up his nose. He held his nose up, sniffing the air like an elk does. The next encounter. I was packing up and I was living here now, and had owned the ranch about a year. My truck was facing east, and a storm was coming from the east. It was dusk. I was packing up to go to the rig. I work in the oil field, and I was pre-packing my truck so I could sleep, then go. Dave was constantly jumping up in my Chevy to try to get me to take him to work, but I cannot. I just told him to get out, put my bedding down on the front passenger seat, and also put a partial bag of Lay's salt and vinegar chips on my dash, in the center of the dash. I closed all 4 doors, so Dave can't get in. I was straightening some things in the house and started to smell a faint smell of skunk. I grabbed my rifle and I was going to pop it if it was a skunk. I don't enjoy killing them, it's just that they started to become a problem. And Dave had gotten, skunked 3 times. And I had enough. So I grabbed the carbine, and went onto the front porch. Nothing. No skunk, no smell. My truck was about 15 feet from the porch. I looked at my truck, and I seen my passenger door was wide open, and the chip bag had been moved off of the dash to on the blankets that were on the front passenger seat. I looked back at Dave, and he was sitting in the doorway and looked at me as I looked at him. He was not coming to see. He knew. Although he wasn't scared acting, he damn sure wasn't coming out. I've had a couple of other encounters. The corner of the house was slapped and made my bed jump. And I used to have rocks thrown onto our metal roof. I was watching you and your channel from the beginning, and I've always believed in them. I find it fascinating and interesting, especially with my encounters. I personally never felt threatened or scared. I felt watched, though. I watched some of Scott Carpenter's channel, so like a crazy guy with Dave standing next to me, I was talking to them like Scott says to do. I told them out loud that I'm no threat. This is my land, but you're welcome. That my rifles are not for them. And that I love this dog as my child. Do not harm him. And the slapping and the throwing rocks stopped. About 2 months ago, early June 2023, late night about 3 a.m., I seen one of them. He was very big, and it was his silhouette. He was about 11 to 12 feet tall. I never felt scared. I've never had mine speak either. I seen his head and shoulders slowly move behind a tree, and I told him, "Hello, friend. Have a good night, buddy." Dave was out with me at my left side, and he was looking at that direction. Then I looked that way, and that is when I seen it move slowly to mask itself behind the tree. I then told Dave to go inside, and we both did. I was not scared, and Dave was not scared. Wow, that's crazy. This is my last current encounter. This is on the 3rd of September 2023. I knocked off my Oakley sunglasses off the banister of the front porch railing. I'd forgotten that they had fallen into the grass. Later that night, I'd fallen asleep in the living room in the easy chair. I got up from the easy chair about 4 a.m. and opened the front door to go out and take a piss before me and Dave crash out in my bed. As I come up the couple steps on the porch, I look over toward the screen door, and my glasses were placed on the welcome mat, center, left to right, directly under the screen door. It reminds me of your knife. Yeah, me too. I know when you get this email, you'll have been done with your trip. You know what the Owl Man says, that they know you, and they respect you. So, about your knife, as you say, you know what it was. You know they are there, yes. You are not looking to be their friend, but I would just simply tell them thank you, because they waited for you, and have enough respect for you to return something you lost. That meant a lot to you. Well, anyway, Steve, I love what you do for others. I feel you're a good man, honorable and steadfast. Have a great day. Thank you, Frank the Tank. Frank, appreciate that, man. Sounds like you're fairly dialed in there. And the no fear thing, that's not that common. That's pretty cool. And the sunglasses doesn't surprise me the slightest. Not the slightest. Like I said, I don't know what's going on. I just got a funny feeling my next installment in my puzzle is coming at the end of this month. I go, we'll see what happens. Sarah's coming with me. I actually said to her, I looked her straight square in the eye yesterday. I said, just so you know, and you do understand that these people are there. Where are we going? Where are you coming with me? And so I don't know, what do you do? How do you tell someone to well, just try to mentally prepare yourself in case something pushes in on the side of the tent while you're sleeping in it, okay? You know what I mean? Just in case, just so you know, just be prepared. You might see some red glowing eyes when you go pee in the dark. No big deal, but just be prepared. Do you know what I mean? Just using that as rough examples. That she's already had. Was it just a handful of months ago? She had Ruby growling, going bonkers on their walk next to big timber on the side of the Sumas River. And she smelt this stink. It was disgusting. And she said she could feel somebody right behind her, but nobody was there. So, there you go. I don't think Sarah's any stranger to these people either, obviously. I don't know why, I just keep getting a picture of my axe coming back into my life. 2-day drive from here. I actually went and looked for it again yesterday. that probably marks about 7 different days I have actually went and crisscrossed my front property, staring at the ground looking for that axe, and it is still gone. It's not sticking to the side of the house. It's not sticking in the end of a log in the house. It's not on the roof. Thankfully, it's not sticking out of one of the horses or me. But it is gone. Like I said before, if you're not familiar, there was a $1,100 power saw laying right beside it with gas. But just the axe is gone. And this is a dead-end rural road. Yeah. Anyway, moving along. You know, another thing I keep remembering, I don't know why. I think probably because I've had a few people emailing in lately about the dark shadows. And that video shared with us, the shadow behind Darren in the timber. And I saw, how many years ago? This is around the same year that I had my trail camera spun to face the next tree beside it. And that was about 9 feet up. And I also had my friend with me who, you know what? My friend who was with me then, this is in a different location than where I am hunting currently, but still up north, not too far from the Peace River, where his nothing but sighting. They're sighting after sighting along the Peace River area. He was the one who heard what sounded like a sledgehammer hitting a tree coming from the direction I went to go get the quad. This is within the first hour of seeing light in the morning. I didn't hear a thing. Didn't hear nothing. Later that same day, we went a big hike through the timber. We're coming up out of the timber into the regrowth, knee-high grass, and brand new poplar trees that averaged about 6 to 7 feet tall. And I videotaped that. And I videotaped that whole area stomped down flat. The grass is absolutely flattened everywhere in an area of about, I don't know, 20 by 40 feet. And those small poplars had been snapped off. And my height, 6 feet, 5 feet at the shoulder. More, there was a bouquet of 4 or 5 of them pulled out of the ground in one handful and placed on the ground. And there wasn't one claw mark or antler mark on any of those individual trees, and there must have been 30 of them. Anyway, that's who was with me when I had my knife returned to my backpack. And where that happened from this area was about 20 miles. Anyway, what I'm getting at is back then, that partner of mine had to leave again, and I stayed by myself. Or no, maybe I went back by myself. I don't know. I probably went back up by myself again. Either way, I was by myself in that area along the Peace River. And I remember I went up a road I hadn't been before, and there didn't seem to be too much human traffic on it at all. And I found one set of bull moose tracks solo going all the way down this road. So I kept on going on, and it was dead quiet. I noted the dead quietness and the no game and no human sign. And I took another old road that cut down through the timber. And it hadn't been logged on either side of the road, and it was old. And I started walking downhill. I could see downhill on that road for about, easily in one shot, I could probably see about 200 yards. I could see there was a slough in the bottom. It's water crossing it. And I'm one of those guys, I need to see what's on the other side of a hill, the other side of a mountain, what's the next valley. I can't help myself. And it would put me on a trail where I can see ahead. I got to go down there and see what kind of water we got. Is there a big slough in the right? I guess got to go see it. So I started walking down that road. There was no game tracks on that road. And it was dead quiet. And I'm walking down, walking along, and I looked to the right. It looked like a bit of a clearing and a swamp off to the right in the timber. I went up and stood up on this edge. I looked around. Got back down on the road. Walking down again, a bit of a muddy clearing on my right. So I walked into the muddy clearing. And as I was walking into that clearing, I spun around. I looked directly behind me, and I saw a dark flash. Not a flash. I saw a dark streak. I mean, scream across that road behind me where I just walked down from one side to the other. I just caught it. It's kind of like, you just caught it. And it's so low to the ground, I thought maybe it was a wolf. I thought it was probably just a black wolf. And I just caught it. But I still have that memory in my head, and there's no way it was a wolf. I would have seen it clearly. Wolves don't move that fast to be a black blur. They don't. And I have a lot of experience looking at wolves. I would have recognized it. And then I went back there, and it was soft ground. It was raining then. It had been raining. And I didn't find one track of nothing. Right? No track going to the bank, no sound of it taking off in the timber. Nothing, just dead silence. And I always wonder. I look back and I don't know why I just have that memory. And obviously, probably wouldn't bother, why I didn't bother sharing it here, because it's not really anything crazy, right? But it's still something for me. And now that I've heard so many other people's experiences saying it was so fast, it was a blur, you know? And it looks to me like I maybe have experienced that too. That went on up there in that country. I don't even know how did I get babbling about that? Anyways, whatever. I shared another minor little tiny chapter out of my adventures up there. Seeing the blur. There's definitely way more going up there than there is right here for me. Can't say that for others, but there's quite a bit goes on around here too, but more significant, it's more personal up there. Whoever it is living up there seems to be wanting to be in contact with me or something, right? I wonder why. Maybe I'll investigate. I'll see what Sarah feels when she's up there, because she is a bit of an intuitive. It'll be interesting to see how she feels when she's up there with me. And the plan is she's going to come up and hunt with me for the first 3 or 4 days. And then possibly I'll take her to the nearest town airport and she'll fly home. And then I'll be solo from there on. That's my plan. Now, what am I doing? I'm sure I have a lot more. Of course, obviously, it's endless. It's endless. I haven't been able to reach out and talk to anyone that I want to talk to because I just haven't had the time. When it comes to this topic and getting more puzzle pieces filled in. Now, Dogman, we don't hear too much about the Dogman topic, do we? I mean, we really don't. I don't focus on it. I don't shun it away. I'm open to it, and I've said publicly a bunch of times, I have been forced to accept the truth and the truth of these beings as being real. But we just do not seem to receive that many reports. And I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. It's not me. I'm just saying, if you guys think I'm censoring these emails, well, obviously I'm not. We crack them open together here, right? Oklahoma, Bigfoot and Dogman. Oklahoma. It's got to be one of the ground zero areas for experiences, don't you think? One of them. Hello, Steve. This is the only time that I've told anyone about this event. All right. I'm Henry Minch. Share my name if you like. Although I should note that despite my name sounding a bit unique, there are at least 5 other people in the U.S. with that same name. It goes back to an ancient knighthood from St. Henry, the Exuberant, that I'm obviously happy to tell you about. But I'll keep it short today. I'm a professional photographer and videographer working from St. Louis now, but I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma called Cashion. It's a quiet place, with not much going on today, but in the late 70s and early 80s it was. Still a quiet town, but one where people could earn a living wage in the oil and gas industry. Lots of cattle and wheat ranching still goes on, but it seems like the oil money doesn't trickle down anymore. I spent virtually every day I could from the age of 6 in a creek bottom that ran a mile or so from my home. It all started by going with the older boys one day. They didn't want to ride bikes or play war this time, so someone suggested fishing. I basically followed these guys around all the time until I was 8 or 9. They always had pellet rifles or BB guns, and it really would seem crazy today, but it was just life at that time. So, this creek behind the rodeo grounds on the edge of town was a revelation to me. And although we walked to lots of farm ponds within several miles radius during that and the following summers, I was always returning to this part of the creek on my own. I can't tell you how many times I ran from bulls as I crossed the pasture, or how many snakes I had to walk around. They often sunned themselves near or directly on dry cow pies, and it made them hard to see at times. But those were the things I was on the lookout for as I walked into my favorite spot. I did this almost daily in the summer and every often in the winter as well. When I was 10, I'd stopped hanging around the older kids altogether. I didn't dip school anymore or keep their bad habits, and I was doing things on my own more. I determined I would make my own camp at the creek and had saved up my allowance for a hatchet and some other stuff to get the project going. After recently hearing so many viewer stories on your channel, I now think the hatchet may have been what caused my encounter. Of course, it sounds like wood knocking when you use an axe or hatchet. Oh, I know. That caused an experience for me. And you can probably imagine the sound a 10-year-old is going to make smacking away at a dead wood trying to make camp poles. As I was working away, I was surprised by a really large snake wrapped around a root that crossed the creek. I just suddenly noticed it. I don't remember why. It was this shiny copper color but didn't have a pattern. It was very thick, probably 4 inches in diameter at center mass. I couldn't tell how long it was because of its doubling up on top of the root and coiling. I looked for a minute. It didn't seem quite real somehow, and I felt very uneasy. So uneasy that I couldn't settle down and get back to what I was doing. So I grabbed my things and walked home. I started to go back early the next morning while it was cool out, when the snakes are slow. And I had my hatchet and some fishing stuff, and I walked past the rodeo grounds. I crossed a gate into the first pasture, and on my right were these long, low hills that were once a rail bed. Scattered around were lots of small cedars. Most were just a foot or two tall. So the view to the little oak trees that marked the pond and the creek, 200 yards ahead, was only lightly obstructed. As I walked near 2 bigger cedars on my left side, the opening between them gradually came into view. I felt like I was frozen in my tracks and slowly turned my head. 8 or so feet from me stood 2 very wide, very hairy creatures, maybe 7 feet tall. I say creatures because I can't remember their faces. I do remember looking and seeing only one at first, and then I think I took another step or two without realizing it. There were 2. They were about the same size, and they were reddish brown. They were 2 or 3 feet apart and both facing me like they had been waiting for me. They didn't move much. I tried to understand what I was seeing, or wake up. I really looked at their fur and concentrated it. It seemed there was some woven string net over the part of the shoulder and torso on one, but totally covered in hair or fur. That's a weird description. I'm going to read that one more time. It seemed there was some woven string net over the part of the shoulder and torso on one, but totally covered in hair or fur. I didn't want to look above their chests. I don't think they had any neck. I'd never heard of a ghillie suit at the time, but this would have had to have been a full costume and a really good one. That, and it was a small town, I can't think of 2 people there with the same strange body shape. They were the size of large men, enormously barrel-chested with short, massive thighs. After a long moment, I looked deliberately into the face of one on my left, but I don't recall what I saw. I felt that sensation when you know someone is about to speak, sort of like when you know someone is looking at you and you open your eyes. And Steve, I bolted. I took off the way I came so fast, I don't remember dropping my stuff or anything about running home other than the dry grass beating my legs as I kept moving faster and faster. It was probably 2 weeks before I had the nerve to go back, and I brought some friends along. I only told them I had a spot to fish if you didn't mind the snakes, but when we were leaving, I was trying to lead, and they were too. So we ended up on opposite sides of the creek for a few hundred yards. When I jumped across the creek in a brushy spot to scare them, they said they weren't scared and had heard me the whole way. But as they talked, it was clear they thought I'd crossed the creek and gotten on the other side of them before coming back, crossing again and then jumping out. I hadn't. I wasn't that fast. But I was dumb and kept going back. Just not as often. I'll write back with the dogman encounters later. And I'll make myself available if you ever want a cameraman for that Port Chatham incursion you mentioned recently. I'd consider it a highlight. I love the Pacific Northwest and your channel. This is getting long-winded, so I'll sign off. Thanks for getting the word out. Henry. Okay, Henry. I hope this didn't take forever to hear, because I dipped into the older folder, and this was a couple years ago. There is a shit pile of people waiting to be heard. If you're still here, send in the dogman encounters. Sounds like they've allowed you to see them for whatever reason. I don't know. I haven't a clue about that part of these mysteries. Why me? Why you? Why the others? And why not my neighbor? All right, moving along. Gotta go. I've got one day, or maybe two. I don't even know what I got, but I gotta utilize my time. Sun's coming up. I have to go. I have to go get my trailer, jack it up, and start removing the axle, the leaf springs, the wheels, and the hubs, and put together my new one. God, that sucks. It sucks having to do stuff that you shouldn't have screwed up to cause the failure to begin with, right? That's it. That's it for emails, all right, you guys? But I'm going to make a quick mention on the tail end of this video. I had a couple people write in all insulted. All insulted and offended that I may have said something negative about the TV personality Steve Rinella. Now listen, I don't know the man at all, but I do know this from firsthand experience, that the majority of people you see that are famous, right? They're on all the famous podcasts. They got their own TV show. TV show is a red flag for me, just to start off with. That's just for me. Don't jump on my bandwagon. I'm just going to share with you what I know firsthand. All right? I've guided many people who are in the TV hunting industry. I've spent time with and helped film many people in the South who are big-time celebrities. Big-time celebrities in the TV hunting industry. And I can tell you this with confidence. And I was also had this pointed out to me years ago too from people who associated with these people all the time, that these people need followers. These people need to be watched. And these people are aware that the following that they have accumulated over years, they could lose overnight. All right? Take note of that important factor. Now listen, these people also have developed a character that works in front of the lens. How do I know this? Because I've seen, I don't know how many of them, on camera and off camera. And one thing they all have in common is the character they use when the camera is rolling. All right? Can I say anything negative about Steve Rinella? Never met him. I'm giving you what I know about these TV people. All right? They're aware of this. So far, out of all the people that I've spent time with who are in the TV hunting industry, I think I've maybe met two that were absolute, legitimate, awesome human beings. I spent time with what is considered to be one of the most popular faces globally when it comes to TV hunting. And I can tell you with confidence that the person you see in front of the camera is a character, a fictional character. And the person behind the camera is probably one of the lowest forms of a human being I've ever come across to date. Will I tell that story one day? I don't know. It's a great big negative nasty story. I've got a lot of shit on this idiot, and he took a shot. He took a shot over my bow publicly a while back, and a guy sent me a screenshot of it pertaining to trying to say that they fired me because I wasn't a good enough guy, when actually I humiliated the shit out of him and quit and left him sitting there. But anyway, what I'm saying is, when that man, who I will hopefully have on here, said that he was going to share his story with that Steve Rinella, and all I wanted to do was meet him, and they went, no. That doesn't surprise me the slightest, from what I know about people who need to be in front of the lens. Okay? But we'll hear straight from the mouth of the man. Hopefully if he decides to come on here. I'm pretty sure he will. So there you go. That's my take on, that's my first-hand knowledge on TV hunters, right? Television shows and people that want to be a show host. You wouldn't believe, on that side note, the outdoors show hosts, there's no money in it. First off, okay, guys, there's no money in being on TV. There's no money at all being a television show host. Unless, of course, you've made it to the top because you were such a freak and you climbed your way to the top. There might be a bunch of sponsorship money up there, but there's not. On average, to be a television show host or on a hunting television show, you probably get a handful of packs of free broadheads, some hats, some t-shirts and shit. It's about it. That's about it. I know one of the biggest names that's on a huge popular show on Mossy Oak's television shows. He's got a gut and skin and cord-wrapped deer in his hometown meat shop to make ends meet on the side. There's no money in that shit, but everybody knows who he is. Anyway, there you go. I guess that's my little semi-rant on anybody who might have felt a little offended that I might have hurt their little poor Steve Brunel's feelings, right, the other day. Trust me, if you want first-hand knowledge on that, what I call a character flaw that a lot of humans have is the need to be in front of a camera. I'm the guy to share the truth with you when it comes to television show, hunting show hosts, okay? What else? You know, another side note, that guy has absolutely scoffed, joked about, and ran down the topic of the existence of a Sasquatch or Bigfoot people in the forest as well. Go figure, right? As far as I'm concerned right now, today, if you are any kind of a true professional outdoorsman, you know what's going on out there. And you don't scoff at this shit. Anyways, I'm not losing any sleep over it. That's my little spiel. I probably won't ever bring it up again. But if the man comes on who was literally shaken side to side by his head in the mouth of a grizzly bear and wants to share that story, he's going to share it all here. I guess I should probably do that today too. Get Sarah to get a hold of that guy who knows the guy. Keith, whose friend is the man who was attacked. And I'd love to get him on here to hear his story word for word. And if he wants to meet me, I'll frickin' go out of my way and meet him in a heartbeat. Why not? There you go. Here I go. On my way, on with my day. Share my story at howtohunt.com. It gets shared word for word. Everyone's equal here. Nobody gets shit on. Well, unless they ask for it, but nobody gets their story changed at all. Ever. We crack them open together here for the first time. Nothing's rehearsed, right? And there's no character I've developed for this lens. I guarantee you that one. Anyway, still got these. These. Sarah's decals. Oh, yeah, right. She had somebody from Switzerland email her and ask her how to get her stuff to Switzerland. And I guess then she looked on the website or whatever she's got. I don't understand this shit, that end of it, but she found out how to add countries onto the shipping, where to ship to list. And Switzerland's on it. And she added a bunch of other countries. Just in case you're wondering. And get this one. What'd you say it's $20 to ship one item across Canada? And it was $10 to ship to frickin' Switzerland. God, Canada is such a joke. Anyway, that's it. That's all my ranting. I gotta go get shit done, tend to my doggy out here, and see if she's gonna eat something properly. I don't hear her chewing on that bone. And the links for everything you may be curious about are in the video description below. Back tomorrow.